Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Katalin Székely. I am Creative Program Officer at Open Society Archives. And before introducing our guest, I should announce that we are going to record this whole event. So if anyone has a problem with it, please cover their faces or whatever. So let me introduce you to Farid Rakun. He's going to be the curator of the next Documenta. He's an artist, activist, and makes so many things. I cannot really list, but he's going to talk about it, obviously. I should also tell that it's because he's here because there is a new visitor program that is called dot.to.dot, which was set up by Rita Kálmán and the Impex, and it is in collaboration with the OFF-Biennále Budapest. And I think that was enough from me, and I give the microphone to you.
Yeah, thank you very, very much for having me here. Of course, to OFF-Biennále and dot.to.dot. Everyone in OFF-Biennále as well as dot.to.dot residency program, which I'm the inauguration, the first tryout of that program has been amazing so far. So yeah, I'm Farid, has been introduced, but I'm part of Ruang Rupa, so I'm not going to curate Documenta, but Ruang Rupa, hopefully I will not curate, but Ruang Rupa is the artistic director. We don't have membership, but for some projects we just like assemble some people based on availability, of course, and time and interest at that moment, etc., etc. And then we kind of like play with everyone's skills and think about what kind of project we want it to be, let's say. And then we're there's 9 of us, this is the 9. So I'm not speaking on behalf of only myself, although it's fine for us to be individuals. So if there's someone else is here, maybe you'll hear something different. But that's actually the beauty of being in a collective, let's say. We call ourselves a collective. We can talk about it later, I think, how the understanding of collective is different from our side, and then from something in like this context in Budapest, let's say. Because in Indonesia, maybe as you know, after 1975, it's illegal to be left, basically. So if you call someone a communist up until today, after Reformation even, in public, that's almost like the highest insult, if you call someone a communist. So yeah, being a collective, of course, not for us, is not really directly connected to leftist ideas, let's say. I'll talk about ideology later, but just to begin with, so it becomes interesting and it can be problematized afterwards. That's the thing. I'll directly go to the elephant in the room, which is Documenta. This is Lumbung is the working title of our project for Documenta. It's directly translated, it's a rice barn. It's an Indonesian word. It's called a rice barn. It is a metaphor, actually, for something that we kind of like understand and practice already, experiment with, to govern collectively our resources, to see ourselves as a resource as well as everything can be a resource, but then how to commonly govern it and collectively govern it as well. It came from the understanding of rice barn, which came traditionally from agricultural villages back in Indonesia. every village has this particular architecture for them to store the surplus of a harvest because it's agricultural. It has become an archetype. Every village, every tribe, all those kind of different contexts in Indonesia, because it's an archipelago. For those of you who's not familiar with Indonesia, it's an archipelago, different, so many languages, so many islands, etc., etc. But almost every one of us has this type of building. So it's also an architectural archetype, let's say. So for Indonesian, it's very useful to use this metaphor. Basically, if we say something is lumbung, then it goes, the imagination or the memory goes into certain way. Yeah, basically that's it. These are just like some other types that these were colonial times photographs. So the beginning one was like almost right now. It was in Bali. This one is from other places. For example, that one on the very my left, it's clearly Sumatra Nis, let's say. This one is maybe the point of it all. This is what we have become, basically. We started with that one. I hope it's clear enough for the one for in the back. Maybe not. You can come in front more, I think, because like yeah, huh? So on this one is Art Collective Compound. This is how we started. Ruang Rupa started in 2000 as an artistic collective, and then this diagram is the latest diagram we produced after we became collective of collectives, and became a school. I'll talk about the school later, but the artistic collective compound consisted of Ruang Rupa and its children, let's say, like our programs before, like Jakarta 32, OK Video, etc. And then other collectives as well, which is Serum and Grafis Suruhara. And then on this side is the school that we just established in November 2018. We became a school. I'll tell you more about the school later, but it's a knowledge production and dissemination thing, separated. No, it's all connected, but it is something that came out of our artistic practice, let's say. And then since 2015 at least, if not 2013, we've been talking about self-sustainability, which is basically on top. We're capitalists, that's clear, because of this, like money is on top. But it's totally an incident, but it's kind of funny. Unconscious, subconscious. But we've been talking about it because we've been sustaining ourselves differently. Serum, Grafis Suruhara, and Ruang Rupa, for example. Ruang Rupa has been up until now a group or collective that is advanced in proposal writing for fundings, which Serum and Grafis Suruhara never did in their life, never ever. What they did is like to find out a certain, because their English is not that good actually, that's the reason. What they found though is a business model really early on their existence, that in Jakarta at that moment, in early 2000, art handling is actually a lucrative business, but no one was doing. Art handling is basically like making exhibitions for others. So they set up themselves as a corporation doing art handling for everyone, including up until now. So if like Goethe Institut, for example, Institut Français, Japan Foundation, you name it, even art fairs, our national gallery, museums, etc., if they make an exhibition, there's a big chance that at least partially or not fully, Serum is doing it. So it is a business model that they found early on. But then when we gang up together, we started thinking about separating commercial works with our artistic label, because it's basically like hurting the label in itself. Talking about branding, certain portfolio that we're doing, we don't want it to call it Ruang Rupa or Serum. But if we have another wing, then it's fine. That's why it's called Rux. It's a company. And then we experimented with a lot of things, because we know as well foreign funding is not sustainable. And after 20 years, if we're still independent, dependent totally from foreign funding, it's just not healthy. It should go, even if there's any, which is there is still some. It should go to younger people. That's one. The second one, Indonesia is not a donor country that needs to be supported anymore in international funding. So that's two. And third, throughout the years, we've seen not only in the art world, but NGOs working for a long time, but then certain funding folded, their practice also folded. So that's basically not fair. I will talk more about it. Yeah, this one is funny, but this is for Documenta. Wait, let me go back. In the middle, there's a collective pot. That's the lumbung part. That's the resource I was talking about when I was saying. So artistic ideas, knowledge, and of course sustainability in every meaning. Not only money, but also sustainability of people to still be working. So it's time, energy, friendship, etc. We think it as a resource, and then we put it in the middle. So we are very transparent towards each other right now, on everything, on the time that we can spend, bank accounts, every collective bank account, how much we have actually at one point, how to spend it, focus, what kind of focus we can use at certain moment, because not everyone has the same focus on everyone with everyone else at any given point. If someone just had a child, we would demand something else different than if someone is still single, for example. Because we realize also, like in art and culture, I don't know here, but I know a lot of context, it's not friendly for life, basically, art and cultural scene. Especially, of course, being a male, sometimes I'm still shocked by how unfair it is for female counterparts. Like you need to choose between family or career, for example. If you're a dancer or an actor, it's even worse, because your body will change, and then all those kind of stuff. No, so that kind of stuff we can talk about openly and then discuss, and then basically horizontality doesn't mean everyone gets the same responsibility and rights. That's clear for us by now. But we got into this moment because of certain experiences. Let's say we grow into the sensibilities, and we're still growing. When Documenta Finding Committee invited us to even ask us whether it's okay for them to even think about Ruang Rupa to be one of the candidates, they didn't ask for proposal yet. It's only like is it okay? This is a kind of like joke between us now, but one of the juries basically came up to us and then almost apologetically, like, I'm sorry, I need to ask you this. It's okay for you to say no, but I just cannot help but to ask you, is it okay for me to throw your name in the bucket? For the group to discuss whether they would do anything with us anyway. At that moment, we thought it was a prank, to be honest, because we never thought we knew Documenta, of course, but because we're in the art world, but we know that that thing hasn't done anything with us anyway. Hasn't done anything to our context either. So there is no connection, basically. And then that's why we thought it was a prank. We were just like, okay, where's the camera, you know? Where's the camera, and then when will the joke be revealed, let's say? What's the catch? But after that one, we actually kind of like thought about it collectively as well. 1 or 2 days we needed, and then we said, yeah, okay, it's fine. Because one, it's a long shot anyway. We might not get it. 2, it's just not nice to say no. It's whether it's a necessary statement for us to make. We thought no. It's not needed at that moment. It might be needed now, but it's a different story. But yeah, so that too, and then the third is we would not make a proposal. Basically, what we did was to make an invitation back with this understanding. We're doing it with or without Documenta, and then if we've been doing it with people that we meet every day with the same context, as well as we can enlarge it into actually Indonesia, of course, but then Asia at least partially. We've been trying to make, of course, networks, etc. We work together. We kind of like also campaign this resource kind of way of thinking. That's why a biennial somewhere in Singapore or in Bangkok or whatever residency space Vietnam has, you know, all those kind of stuff can play a different role in different in the ecosystem of Asian art world, let's say. That's why it's okay for me to still be okay with Singapore, because that place is just like unbearable. But only Singapore can play that role in Southeast Asia right now, to build those type of institutions, to pay these foreigners that much amount of money, to make people easy to come and go. Nowhere else in Southeast Asia can do that. So they're playing an important role in the ecosystem, no? In this understanding, the question becomes like, if Documenta is going to be part of our ecosystem, which never been touched before, and we're not unique in it, what could it be? What kind of experimentation or practice, institutional practice, we can do? No, that's basically the invitation back. That dare was answered by Double Dare, by basically accepting us and then saying, "Yep, this is it. You're going to do it." I was speechless, to be honest, for 24 hours after that. Because I was thinking, just like, it's all glimpses, just like my life is done, no? I thought I got my life as well figured out. You know, it's not. It's right now. I'm figuring things out again, basically. For better or worse, there are positives and negatives, of course, like everything else in life. But then what we're trying to do is actually to not repeating the same model over and over again. in a sense, like we are a collective. So there is a collective decision making that we've been doing. It's really, really nice to be a collective. From if you ask me right now, so I'm not alone. I'm never alone. I always know that someone will have my back, no matter how fuck up I could be, you know. So failure is actually okay, all those kind of stuff, and sharing is one thing that we are thinking to practice. So without that thematic approach, let's say, because we don't have a theme actually, we're not also pretending that we are the genius that needs to be heard by the world right now. But what we can try is to give a different type of practice that if Documenta is a resource, and the resource can be broken down into things. One is brand. Documenta is a brand. Documenta has a history with the archive and the knowledge that they've amassed. They actually is a resource for a lot of us to use. And then not only for, of course they have budget, that's another thing, but how to share this resource to places that's like us, that hasn't been touched by this thing that is called a lot of times as the biggest and most important contemporary art world has, you know. That biggest and most important become a vital starting point, because then we can ask for whom. If it is the biggest and most important, then it hasn't done anything to us, then we're not a part of contemporary art world, no? Which, of course, for us it's not the case. So how to see this and how to practice Documenta differently, let's say. How we can, this invitation back, and then accepted invitations, how can we continuously in the next few years extending invitations, basically. So we don't know, and then this is not because we want to play mysterious, we just don't know how it will be, to be honest, because what we know is a process that we've set up. We're still thinking about it, to finalize it, in negotiation with the institution, of course, right now. But that process, if we follow, we believe in that, will end up in something that even us would be surprised, you know, because then it becomes a planetary collective, maybe. The decision can also be done that way. Of course, we started with honesty, that we know who we know, and then if we want to work for 3 years with someone, that someone we need to be sure that this person is basically bearable, no? We want to hang out with someone for 3 years that is a good person. So that's where we start. Right now, in November, we're going to be, the first week of November, all of us, I'm looking forward to it, because for almost 3 months I haven't seen my friends, but I will see them again in Kassel. For the first time, we will all be together in Kassel, although all 9 of us have been visiting Kassel in different times, but this is the first time, as well as the what we call Ruang Rupa Extended. The other people from other parts of the world that we are starting to work with. And then from that we're different knowledge, different networks, all those kind of stuff going to be put in the table, on the table, and then we're going to start properly the process of heading to Kassel 2022, and then Kassel 2022 will be the celebration, basically, of this process. It's going to be only in Kassel. There will be nowhere else, not in Jakarta. It's just tiring. I didn't visit. No one of us visited the last time. But just seeing the website and all those kind of stuff is just non-human for us. It's just inhumane for anyone to visit something like that. But so, which is fine. Some of us are not human anyway, no. But we're just not interested in doing that. If Documenta is interested in that, they shouldn't pick us, basically. We'll see what Kassel will be. It's going to be celebration. Kassel will be super important for us. We wanted to move to Kassel, at least 4 of us, but because of a lot of reasons, we couldn't. 2 of us will move to Kassel with their families. Lumbung Kassel will be one of the things we're going to initiate. So we started actually talking to people in Kassel, and map certain things in Kassel, what could be done, all those kind of stuff. But we just want to see Kassel as a resource, including the people, and then the question of like how to make certain things beyond transactional. So if we come to anywhere in Kassel right now, there is like it's almost impossible to erase Documenta label from our forehead, no? And the relationship become kind of what we realized early on is that relationship is transactional almost automatically. So anytime we come, anywhere we go, it's just like, of course it's nice, all those kind of stuff, but it's almost like what do you want from us, what can we provide, and then how much you can pay. That one we want to break. Hopefully it's possible, we'll see. But that's why Lumbung Kassel is one thing that we want to establish. The other one is, of course, Lumbung Indonesia, because, and again, Indonesia is archipelago, all those kind of stuff. We've been touring Indonesia, of course, because it's very Java-centric. Java is one of the islands, not the biggest, but it's been a Javanization process of the nation for the whole time, and we see it as a problem. Like West Papua, for example, the most east. It's problematic to call West Papua as part of Indonesia, but that's another thing. But what about contemporary art happening in those places? So we want to use this as well, this opportunity to keep on doing that, to know, to have more friends, even to the remote parts of Indonesia. That's why Lumbung Indonesia is important. How we form this Lumbung, that's why the people who we want to hang out with and other initiatives afterwards. These are the values that we believe in because of its handwritten, as well as maybe it's difficult for the people in the back of the room to read it. I'll read it loudly. One is humor. That's the first thing. We just want to hang out with funny people that can laugh about themselves. Second is generous, and it relates to other value is sufficient. We can be generous. That's why Lumbung is important, because it's surplus. If people are not sufficient, they don't have surpluses, and they cannot be generous, no? And it's not about how much resource you have. Rich countries and culture can be super ungenerous because they're not sufficient in their mind, basically, no? It's the same with like rich people, basically. Not every rich people is generous. Most rich people are not generous anyway, but poor people are actually much more generous because they started with having nothing, so whatever they have, they know they can survive with nothing, so they can give away. So that's basically the generosity we're talking about. Curious is kind of clear, independent, because we also want to think about funding, for example, sponsorship, resource management, all those kind of stuff, not as colonial or imperialistic extension of doing things, especially in the art, And then locally anchored is also why we want to do stuff. So initiatives, collectives, groups, institutions, whatever that are global, let's say, and too big to fail, that's basically we're not interested, because they can survive by themselves anyway. They don't need this kind of thinking for them to practice things. And then they're too big to fail. A lot of times they're too old. They're dinosaurs, basically. They're going to extinct. Let them extinct, no? We're interested in cockroaches, basically. But cockroaches, yeah, it's time to put gold plates in cockroaches and then say, this is important as a practice. How we got into that, then it becomes something else. Then I'm going back, basically. In Jakarta, and this needs to be stated and underlined a lot of times, there is something called Jakarta Biennial. We hack it, to be honest, since 2009, but it's not ours. Jakarta Biennial has its history in 1974. It didn't happen after the Reformation in 1998, and then there was an attempt to resuscitate it in 2009. At that moment, we have become something. We become an army in the art scene, at least in Jakarta. So it's useful for them to gang up with us. So we become artistic director, etc., etc. But then in 2011, they didn't do anything with us. It was a shit show. To be honest, it was like super ambitious, hundreds of artworks, including artworks from Ai Weiwei, etc., etc. Half of the artworks was stuck in custom in the opening day. You know the story, all this kind of stuff, no? Too ambitious to begin with. And then in 2013, it was given back to us, basically. In 2014, we made a foundation in order for Jakarta Biennial to be more independent from Jakarta Art Council, because it's just corrupt. Jakarta Art Council is from the municipality. So it needs to be independent, so it's not only asking for money through Jakarta Art Council. And then in 2015, the first edition that it was done by the foundation, there was a possibility for us also to ask a foreign curator to work with us. And then we found a 6,000 square meter ex-warehouse space, a treasure we found by surprise. And then we found it in a very bad condition. We needed to put water in, electricity, all those kind of stuff. And then we made something like that, basically. That started to hack something like Jakarta Biennial, to be honest, is something that was very useful for us, because it's not only Ruang Rupa, then Serum can be included, then other collectives, street artists can be included, etc., to make biennials. And then it changed as an exercise for us as well to shift our way of thinking. What if we make an exhibition, an international exhibition as large as a biennial? What can we use it for? So it's like an exercise to sharpen our sensibilities, let's say. It's not only artist collective, because, you know, artist collective has this kind of connotation of like forever punks, no? Which we kind of like challenge after at least 9-year-old. So then after finding this space, we realized that if we didn't do anything with that space, someone else would take it, and then gentrification would happen, not in our term. Gentrification happened anyway, but we want it in our term, no? So we took it over. This is the first time the collective of collectives were founded. Then, yep, then it became this. There are, so a lot of Jakarta collectives moved from where we were before. Basically, we were renting all houses in different places in the city, different parts of the city, and then we moved under one roof. And then that's the first time also we asked ourselves how to actually work together, including economically. So economy was in the middle of the thing, of our practice at this moment. We didn't shy away from saying just like certain things are possible or impossible, or we just need to start to think about how to self-sustain. We started with the notion of renting the space because we have so much space. It's too big for us. It's also inhuman for 2 years. It was hard, but we had space. So we started with just like, what if we could rent spaces for commercial things? And then because of we have that much space as well, our experiments with markets, with selling stuff, with all those kind of stuff could be actually enlarged. So that's why a lot of our events at that moment also like became market-like. It's useful in order to get street cred. So we become more well known basically, because a lot of times Ruang Rupa at least are known for artist collective, not for artistic works, but for artist groups that make music festivals, let's say, because we just don't differentiate between music, video, design, architecture, visual art, performing. We just omnivores, you know, we just do all those stuff, festival making, event making, because also we're coming from a failed state. This is another thing I think is interesting to touch upon maybe later. We don't have any belief in the state. They never support us anyway, artists basically. It's changing a little bit right now because Indonesia, as I said, is not a country to be supported anymore globally. So we have money. But also not only that, but institutions that the state was making never that strong, all those kind of stuff. So we built our own infrastructures to begin with. If we want to know about video art, we make a video art festival. If we want to have students talking to each other in Jakarta, then we make the forum. So if we want to make a screening room, we just make one. So those kind of stuff is embedded in a lot of our society. So we're never alternative, one, because there's no mainstream. We're lucky in that. If we were born in another context where the state is strong or the market is strong, we will never be what we are right now, to be honest. But yeah, that's the background where we are, and then we just like continuously build these infrastructures, and then that feasibility actually help us as well. Then although that experiment for self-sustainability, to be honest, was a failure, we bled so bad running that space for 2 years, but certain people saw us, including the government. Let's forget about the government right now, but that way we could little by little got into revenue generating and then there are resources for us to finally buy a property, because another thing that was unhealthy is renting. 30% of our annual budget was actually spent on rent, every one of us. So if we get rid of that expense, then we can actually pay ourselves better. No, which has been practiced since we opened the school. I think the next one is nah. This is not interesting. Uh, this is the school that we just opened. It's a school of collective and ecosystem building. So, which is funny because most of Ruang Rupa is actually dropouts, to be honest. Not even having diploma. I'm the only one out of 2 that has even a master's degree. Only 2 out of 80 people, let's say, and we're just lucky. It's not just because of we're smart, we're just lucky. But then it is very funny for dropouts to make a school, no? But Serum and Grafis Haruhara graduated from pedagogy schools, all of them. So they were trained as teachers. Actually, they don't want to do that, and they make collectives instead. So in talking to them, it makes sense for us to make a school. And then what school it is, it's not directly in competition with existing school, because I think it's fine for them to do whatever they do, no? We don't want to criticize them on that. And then they should do what they need to do because it's part of the ecosystem. But we just want to say that certain things can be done differently. That's why it's collective, because that's what we know. We don't know anything else, basically. But that framing actually helps us then from studio practice to curatorial practice to art history to ethics, politics, and aesthetics, all those kind of stuff, coming from a collective point of view, because we grew from that almost 20 years by now, and then we realized it's also actually there's a knowledge production in that. I realized by hanging out with them for whatever 15 years, I learned something. But it's also unfair. I was born and raised in Jakarta. I tried to escape 3 times. I always come back. But for people, again, in the East or other parts of Indonesia, they don't have that privilege if they're interested in us and see us as a resource to hang out with us for 15 years, no? Because for me, it's possible because I didn't think it as a career move to begin with. I knew them in 2003 as a place to get drunk before going to clubs, because clubs are expensive. So if you come drunk already, it's just more fun. So it was not a smart move actually to begin with, but it's different right now. People can see us as a resource, so how to actually share it more? Then maybe there's a mechanism that they can spend a shorter time, although it's not that short, it's still a problem. It's a year that we ask them to hang out with us, and then in constant negotiation of what they need us for. So it's not a class based school, let's say, but how to actually practice that collective way of thinking. That's basically not thinking about you as an individual only, but if you get ahead in life, then you bring other people with you. No, that's at least how we think about collective way of thinking and ecosystem building. So if we got Documenta, for example, good school cannot die because there are so many other people that are dependent on this or need this, and then how we can share it with our friends, basically. So what good can it bring? No, so that's the question we ask ourselves all the time. this is the property we found. Instead of 6,000 square meters, it's 700. It's a mini football field to begin with. So we had a roof already. If we remember seeing a lot of containers in the warehouse, we needed to move that container anyway. So, oops, it hang. Hello. So anyway, so we just like moved those containers, and then we had a roof already, so we didn't need to ask for building permits, basically. So in 2018, we got out in 2018 from that warehouse, and then we occupied this thing and then started the school program in November 2018. So it looks like this right now, kind of. Those containers we just like moved in. If you remember, the artistic initiatives are in the ground floor because it's much more public that we are doing. But then the second floor is the school itself, yearly taking participants, what we call them participants. A lot of them, as long as it's like 18-year-old, older than 18-year-old, they can join. The first batch, it was someone that didn't graduate from high school and not thinking of going back to school, up until someone that's 40-year-old already practicing artist. Started with 15 participants. Of course, in the end, it's just like 10 or 11 that hang out with us for the whole year. The rest of them just disappeared. They still hang out. They just like didn't care about it anymore. And then this kind of stuff didn't work anymore because it's just too small. And then we kind of like one of the most difficult thing in Jakarta for artists and designers and architects are to find space. Studio, if you're an artist from Jakarta, it's impossible for you to have a studio, basically. So we built this, and then we kind of like rent it out again for artists, publishers, architects, designers, all those kind of anyone who wants to rent, for them to have a studio space. 50% of them is basically ourselves. So we pay ourselves in order for them to pay back. No, it's a circular economy. How successful it is still going to be tested, but that's the case. So certain aesthetics as well. It's just really bad. It's like our logo, no? If you remember, oh, this is the problem. It's a very bad logo, to be honest. But we like it because it can be read as well as good looks or looks good, you know. So that's why we chose that one. We just love bad logos. And then, so maybe you can kind of like understand where we're coming from, and then that's what we're trying to deal with Documenta with. Then the question, of course, like my question as well, can it be like, if these two institutions totally different scale, different responsibility, different history, different sensibility, different context, meet together, can it be actually right now become a mutual connection, instead of the smaller become a parasite or the larger become like a predator? Can we actually sit together, no, in the same table, same height, etc., and negotiate and kind of like experiment how could we rethink a lot of stuff, including the ecosystem, what kind of ecosystem we've built in contemporary art, basically. And then a lot of things will be touched upon. We're rethinking about a lot of stuff, including ticketing, whether we still need tickets, if we don't need tickets, but the budget is super dependent on it, should we grow small, like degrow Documenta, or should we do something else with that, revenue generating? How could we actually decide together how budget are spent instead of, this is a fact, only the last Documenta started paying artist fee, which for us is shocking. Previous editions, artists just like don't have artist fee, no? So how we actually be more transparent with that? How, where we actually spend more, no? Instead of making this exhibition that 1 million visitors needs to come because they're paying, it become too big for anyone anyway. It's just like a machine that just like keep on repeating itself, and it's just not healthy. Yeah, those kind of stuff. It's boring, but it's basically what we're doing right now. And then one thing is that's important from that is the constant question of like whether there will be still an exhibition. Even from day zero, we were asked that, and then we're just like, we do exhibition on everyday basis. The question is like, what kind of exhibition do we make, no? To answer this, a lot of times I'm just like playing this video. No, not this one. Because we've made exhibitions before, of course, in a let's say Western European context. So minuscule compared to Documenta, of course. But is there any Dutch person here? No. This is in the Netherlands. They think this is their answer to Documenta, a joke. To be honest, it's like 1/20th of the budget. The number of it has been unregular in schedule, all those kind of stuff. So it's not a brand basically. But what we did with this is public art exhibition, and then we asked the artist at that moment. This is not as ambitious as Documenta right now, because they couldn't even afford for anyone to live in Arnhem in constant basis. So there are they cannot get what Documenta get basically. But we ask artists at this moment to make artworks that are not only can be looked at, but can also be experienced. So, and then we open that artwork for anyone who has an idea to use it for, just use it. We cannot produce these events, of course, there's additional events, because again, budget was minuscule, but we would love to do it if we can, but if we could, but we couldn't. But they can do whatever they want. So that's just funny. Artworks with like weddings, yoga classes, birthday parties, no? Concerts, all those kind of stuff that basically it's not transactional. We didn't give any money to these initiatives. They just do it. So these types of exhibitions, at least we've done. It's not going to be like this, I can assure you that. But just to make people who doubt whether there is an exhibition or not, there will be. It's okay. We're used to make exhibitions as well. And then this is the thing that I'm going to stop with, which is basically we'll give you a glimpse of Jakarta and where we're coming from. I'm not going to talk over this video. It's not that long. I think it's 7 minutes or something. But before I started answering questions as well, I need to shut up and drink, and then after that we can continue discussing.
Aja mau malam ini. Ya.
hebat banget. Masih ada yang temen? Koleksi temen, oh bukan? Ini koleksi siapa? Koleksi pel.
Ketimbang dalam militer misalnya. Dalam militer itu saya kira belakangan. Tapi seniman terlebih dahulu lebih memahami konteks nasionalisme. Saya tinggalkan aja di sapi, kita bahas.
Bergentayangan sejak dini hari dari semua sudut kota ini, menghindari panas matahari dalam lomba berburu rejeki. Tak ada lagi yang berjalan kaki, naik bajai atau metro mini. Semua orang punya motor satu, dari majikan sampai pembantu. Oi, Jakarta Motor City, semua ngebut tak terkendali. Spion mobil disikat, trotoar diganggangin. Tak takut mati, apalagi takut polisi.
Maaf deh, Anda tidak takut saya? Coba sekarang keluarkan surat-surat.
Ya, mereka. Ini juga ada surat nikah, juga nikahnya nikah siri. Gak apa-apa kan? Tak diperlukan gelar sarjana, apalagi ijazah SMA. Asalkan kau bisa naik sepeda, bayar DP murah, motor bawa ke rumah. Sudah banyak yang menjadi.
stang kursi tevreden aan de bier. Kerampulan met nona manis autoreën. Berkike stang kursi tevreden aan de bier. Gado-gado, sate kambing, soto bakar. Ini makanan anak Betawi. Jangan lupa.
Well, it comforted, yes, it's comforting to know now the dark side of the climb down the road. But it's a question, it's run away insane. No, let it breathe, no, let it breathe.
Yep, that's it. Thank you.
So, does anyone has any questions?
Selamat malam.
Sukarno, I
Saya
just realized.
Antash.
Okay.
Mau tanya, just would like to ask Jakarta generally, how do you see, beside your success here in Europe for Castle 2022, how do you see Jakarta as a melting pot and the art scene, the contemporary art scene in Jakarta, in the capital city? Is it booming lately? I mentioned your success. Also, I'm speaking about Machan Museum, Synchronized Fest, Jeep Fest, which is new stuff. How do you see in the future? Terima kasih.
Well, that's why we stopped making festivals, because all those festivals are there anyway. And then we stopped making curatorial workshop as well, because there is finally a proper curatorial school, no? So it is kind of like in a different way. We were young once, we're old now. So in that sense also, it's not only the scene has changed, we've changed, no? But when you talk about success, this is just like an anecdote. One thing the first public thing we did a couple of months ago, after we officially got into this, is to make an event with Goethe Institut, in Goethe Institut, titled "What is Documenta?" No one knew, basically. We need, instead of patting ourselves in the back of like, okay, we're successful, you know, like all those kind of stuff, and be honestly, it's actually much more better to tell what is happening in contemporary art scene, because it's very alienated for a lot of people. That's why they know us as people, as group of artists who make music festivals, because people come to those festivals. No, the rest of our events, compared to the music, none. But instead of that, we just like we use it we use it to actually like to talk to more people, and then the CEO of Documenta was there actually as well. We used that opportunity. We invited people who were involved in previous Documenta edition to give her version of it, all those kind of stuff. And then of course Goethe would be supportive. So playing all this kind of stuff in order for us to actually also to know more what do they think, because it's a bit of confusion, to be honest. No one knew what to do to deal with this news, so we didn't take the stage and say, oh yeah, this is what we're going to do, all those kind of stuff, because it's almost useless. The first thing is just like, what is this news? How to read this news, you know? And then how do people read the news as well? And then it's useful as well at that moment, because then we knew what people expect from us a bit. So then if we want to do something that takes the context in mind, what kind of framing are people expecting us to do, no? It's been surprising, but in many cases, but confusion is one. Also, like, what have you done? That's another thing, you know, like, and then people are just like, okay, let's try to, because we've been around for a while, people know us, but in Indonesia at least, but then also like, the question is like, how did you do this? No, they want to learn basically, but this would be the same explanation, which I just did to you guys, maybe, you know. I don't know either, but maybe it's when I just like throw it out 2001, 2014 in one video, and then 2015 kind of, you know, 2016 kind of, you know, then maybe you can get your own reading of it. So, contemporary arts in Indonesia, we don't care actually, to be honest. It's much more, the cultural scene is much more interesting. The music scene, movie scene, the politics, our election is much more interesting for me.
What do you think why Ruang Rupa has been chosen to curate the Documenta 22?
That's also a big question mark for us. It can be answered by the finding committee, yes, but like indirect. But in official statements, it's because one, we listen. Second is we're almost like we can put smile in people's faces, maybe. To be honest, maybe that's what they need. They think they need. I don't know whether it's going to be. And then the third one, maybe this is much more answering to your question, but it's much more hard for me to say. It's just like the world is changing. The art world is changing as well. And then it's just clear that the old business, the old way to do stuff just not working anymore. And then it's not surprising. And then it's not only in the arts, no? The question is just like, what kind of imagination is there outside of this model that we've been striving with? That has been, to be fair, that model has been campaigned, promoted, run, defended, all those kind of stuff for at least for 200 years, if not more. It's just clear that it's failing right now. It's failing a lot of us, not everyone. But maybe there's and then we're not the only one doing it, I would guess. But that's why we're interested in also like learning from other people who are doing things differently. The thing is, like, those people who are doing things differently a lot of times are not connected to each other. This is the time to be connected, maybe, for us. It's very difficult for Indonesian passport holder to visit any African countries, for example, because each of these countries ask for visas. A lot of them don't even have the consulate or visa granting whatever in Jakarta or any places in Indonesia. We need to travel. So it's just like, it's impossible. But then, if we have, this is the stupid logic of what the world has become, no? If we have a German working visa, well, German working permit, we can ask for that visa in Germany. It's already helping a lot. That one. Second, even for me to meet someone from Burma, it's easier to meet them in Berlin. That's just dumb. We need to change that, and then this is the time to change it as well, because finally we have maybe we can share that resource. Then it makes sense. Well, again, you know, it's easier for us to, that kind of stuff. It's easier. It's easier. It's still impossible for us to visit Israel, but maybe right now we can. Another. Let's see. That's still another. If it's only an if, but yeah, those kind of stuff. So then the network, the knowledge exchange, all those kind of stuff. If it could happen by Documenta in itself, by us right now doing this, it's already a thing. No matter what the result could be, that's it. And then that thing would last. That's what we hope. Beyond Documenta, basically.
Yeah, no, I was also asking that question because you know that there is this discourse in Germany very strong about decolonizing the arts, and I would read it as partly in that direction.
Yeah, but I think like for us, like I've been lately, a couple of since then, I've been also learning about this context, no, of what people are talking in Germany, what is important in Germany, all those kind of stuff, and then how institutions ring differently and all those kind of stuff. But that's one history of decolonization. Our version of it, and then we're not alone. Where is that, you know? For us, to be honest, a lot of times decolonization is, and I'm not talking about Germany right now, I'm talking about the Netherlands, because that's what we have, that's what our history is. Decolonizing all those kind of stuff is almost a band-aid for a wound that actually have much more impact on us, and then they're asking us to actually help them to heal that wound. So that's just difficult for me. Post-colonization is much more interesting if I'm talking about West Papua, that we learn how to colonize after being colonized, and we actually reproduce it. That's much more interesting than just like talking about big institutions feeling guilty about themselves. They're asking to begin with, it's their nature to be like that to begin with, and then they're asking right now, what should we do? You know, we're too big right now, dude. You're asking to be big. That's something wrong in that way of thinking for us, at least.
Thank you so much for all the things you said. I think it was almost a hopeful note at the end, that we should make this kind of networks of smaller entities instead of, battling with the larger ones. So I hope you and also us will have a success in this network connecting. And I think let's go outside and have some fresh air because
it's warm.
Yeah, it's really warm. And thank you for coming.
It's only me, but it's warm.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much. It has been a brilliant start. So thank you.